welcome back to the Back in Time podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Autry, joined as always by my co-host, JD. JD, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing pretty well, man. You look great. We've got a special guest ready to rock and roll. For those of you that are tuning in to the one person that's on watch right now, we got Chris Clews.
How you doing, Chris? You got Chris and Bodie. My Bodie boy here is. My dog is sleeping right next to me, so if you see me looking down, it's only because I want to make sure when I roll my chair back, I don't roll over his paw. So
totally
hear
fair.
a loud squeal, we know what it is.
Yeah,
I'm sure my dog will be on the way down soon, so don't worry.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, Chris, excited to have you back on the show, man. Obviously, you've been on the show several times. We've covered a lot of really fun topics. This might be our best episode yet, though, because we are talking about the best 5 80s movie soundtracks of all time, at least our 5. And I'm interested to hear everybody's picks. I hope we have no crossover tonight, but I think there might be a little.
There might be one or two, but man, when I started doing research, I realized, I mean, first of all, just with the 80s, every major band and major musician wanted to be part of a soundtrack.
Right.
That's the big difference between today and the 80s and some in the 90s as well. But yeah, it was a lot more. I did have to do a lot more research and a lot more thinking. I got some honorable mentions as well. I cheated a little bit. So
that's good. Yeah, I've got a couple as well. Before we get rolling on the podcast real quick, I just want to plug, Chris has got a couple different ways to follow him, which you can see on the bottom of our StreamYard here. But if you're listening on traditional podcast platforms, you can follow him on Twitter. He's at 80s Pop Culture. And then on Instagram, he's at Chris Clews 80s. Is that right? And then anything else, if you want to find out about his speaking engagements or if you want to book him, you can do all that over at chrisclews.com.
Yep. That's it.
And then, of course, we got the book. Chris, go ahead and plug the book, man. We were lucky enough to be part of Volume 2, but I'll let you kind of give the insight on the first 2. And then I know you got a third one coming up as well, too, which I'm excited about.
Yeah, which I'm going to ask you guys to be part of the third one as well. If you
cool.
Honor me.
Yes.
So, yes, I have 2 books in my series, What 80s Pop Culture Teaches Us About Today's Workplace. I'd say the first one, real quickly, just as a rundown, the first one, really short. I'm proud of it in the sense that it kind of kicked off this whole thing for me. But quite honestly, when I read it, I go back and read it, not my best writing. But it kicked off everything for me, and it was a self-published book. And then the second one, I had a publisher for, much better book, much more robust, much deeper into the lessons for the 10 movies. And this third one, I've changed it up a little bit because it's going to be a lot more about life lessons from 80s pop culture. So we will have some business lessons in there, but the bulk of it is going to be about life lessons. I really wanted to expand the audience, and it was a lot more fun for me to write this one. I'm working on the 9th of 10 chapters right now before I get the full manuscript to the publisher, and the 9th chapter is Die Hard. Wasn't supposed to be, but after everything that's happening with Bruce Willis, I wanted to give a nod to the 40 years of entertaining that he's done for us, and put in a Bruce Willis movie.
Very cool.
So that'll launch in September.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah.
And I love Die Hard. Such a great Christmas movie.
It is a great Christmas movie. Yes, along with
JD,
Gremlins.
don't do that with your face.
Gremlins is a great Christmas movie too.
Don't breathe like that.
Yeah.
Nope. Put the lip.
And when you read the chapter, you're going to know why, because I put some scenes in there that make it very clear that it's a Christmas movie.
No, and I honestly, I don't disagree, but I just think that the definition of what a Christmas movie is super convoluted.
Well, I mean, the fact that you're kind of sitting there looking like Yukon Jack is probably not surprising that you would want to go more traditional Christmas movie. So
thank you. You know what? That's the second nicest thing somebody said about my appearance.
Really?
I was recently told I look like a cult leader. And that was the nicest. I was like, hell yeah, thank you, my children.
And then you handed him a meeting card to come over to your house and meet in your basement.
Yeah.
Circle of trust.
The torture cell.
Yeah. Okay.
Trust.
Very good. Well, as we typically do on these episodes, we will do a 5-to-1 breakdown, and I've got the list here. Random drawing. JD, you're going to go first. just because, I mean, your face. I'm going to go second, and then Chris is going to close this down because let's be honest, he's the expert here. He lived through the 80s. Chris has got a great line. Actually, Chris, give us the line. You during your speeches, you always say something about you have to have the parachute pants, and to say that you're an 80s kid, I want to steal it. It's your line.
Oh no, I mean, I say that you have to kind of live through the decade, and that means awkward family photos, and I share those photos of me looking very awkward in the 80s. Yeah, lots of different pictures of very short shorts, members only jackets, cutting lines in your hair, which I think, Vanilla Ice did that after me, by the way. We had a conversation about that. Some very awkward family photos. That's really living through that decade. I thankfully don't have any pictures of me in parachute pants, which spares everybody. I think, including myself, of course, but yeah.
I love it. All right, JD, kick us off, man. Number 5 pick. What do you got?
I'm going to just dive right in and just jump into the danger zone.
Oh, uh-oh.
Let's just play with fire real quickly. I'm going to take both of your breaths away.
Oh God.
It's not an 80s soundtrack without saying some Top Gun action. And maybe it's on your list and maybe it's higher than number 5. But my goodness, like this still holds up.
Top Gun's a really solid pick at number 5.
Yeah.
It's not on my list though.
Not on mine either.
Oh, well, good.
Wow.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, Chewbacca's here. You're right though. I mean, Top Gun, there's a lot of great tunes in this one. Highway to the Danger Zone, obviously fantastic. And I'm really interested in the soundtrack for the new movie. I'm hoping that they get some solid songs on there. I'll load them up on my Amazon Music playlist, and we'll have some fun this summer.
Who the hell uses
I understand
Amazon
Lady
Music
Gaga.
playlist?
I think Lady Gaga did the main theme. I think Lady Gaga did the main theme.
Did she?
That's interesting.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, pretty sure. Listen, Top Gun Maverick, Top Gun overall in the 80s. I mean, you talk about a soundtrack, you're going, super traditional. I think 3 or 4 top 5 hits off of that soundtrack. You mentioned a few in your interlude, we'll call it. That's a really good pick. Top Gun Maverick, just for my money. I think if you want to talk about why, if 80s pop culture is still resonating, I would make a bet that Top Gun Maverick will be the biggest box office hit of the year. Ooh. And you're talking about 37 years after the original came out. It's pretty impressive.
That's good. So real quick, looking forward to it then?
I am. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I am really looking forward to it. Yeah.
Good. Me too. JD?
I want to rewatch Top Gun before I dive into the new one first.
Okay.
And I think after watching the new one, because it's been a minute since I've watched the original, I think I will be completely pumped up.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I'm ready for it. So cool. I'm gonna throw it over to myself here. Number 5. So I am in the year 1984. I am picking from a movie that's about a young teenager who moves to a new city and gets into a fight with a kid on a beach. And this particular song is one of my favorite from the 80s. And it was actually turned down by Sly for Rocky 3. That's what it was initially intended for. But instead it ended up in the Karate Kid. And I am talking about, of course, the Karate Kid soundtrack. I love it. You're the best around, man.
You're the best around. No one's ever going to keep you down. I love that song. Yeah.
And I feel like the whole soundtrack is pretty solid, but this one song, I feel like kind of stands the test of time. And, anytime it pops up in Cobra Kai, or even you get like a little just sense of it, I'm always like, all right, here we go. Let's rock.
we know that you roll the windows up and sing Glory of Love. That's really
oh my gosh. Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah. That's definitely my number 1 pick. But but the original, you got to go with the original soundtrack. So yeah, so that's my pick. Now there's a couple other good songs on this soundtrack though. I don't want to leave them out here. So there's also Young Hearts is on here too. And then No Shelter by Broken Edge, another good song. So Yeah, if you haven't listened to the soundtrack, it's worth checking it out. It's probably somebody's probably got it on Spotify if you're into that.
Just no spoilers. For whatever reason, I know that there is it is on Spotify.
Oh, well, I can't afford
Well,
it. So
you guys are going very as we'll do NFL draft best player available. Kind of.
Oh yeah.
I went a little bit different. So
okay, give it to us. What do you got?
For number 5, I have one from 1987. It is one of my, I would consider probably top 10, maybe even top 5 80s movie for me personally. And it had the 2 Coreys.
Oh,
probably I would say for my money, the greatest vampire movie of all time. And that is The Lost Boys.
I can't say much here. JD, you're going to have to talk.
I'm going to have to talk. I think this is the first spoiler alert of a triple crossover. We're crossing swords here, boys.
Yeah.
So maybe I shouldn't go too deep into it. I don't know, because you guys are going to mention it later, but
maybe.
Yes.
I'm just saying my pants are down.
Okay. If you're
what? That makes no sense.
Oh God, but at the same time, it makes perfect sense.
That slow down on the 4 roses. Yeah, I mean, look, I won't. So if this is going to be a Triple Crown winner here, I will just talk about a couple things within Lost Boys that make it my number 5.
Yeah.
Number 1, I would say that the Echo and the Bunnymen People Are Strange cover. I mean, unbelievable. As they're walking down the boardwalk, and I don't know, man. Star, Jamie Gertz's Star is just so amazing. And to this day, still, like when I see that slow motion scene where he sees her for the first time walking down the boardwalk, and I believe that's when it's playing. And maybe
oh yeah, you get that little line, so doom doom doom.
Yeah,
People Strange.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes. Awesome.
And then the other one that I think is like, and I'll leave it at this since you guys are going to talk about it. The other one that I think is like super underrated from there is "Cry Little Sister," which is the theme song, and it's such a cool song. It just, I don't know, like you have to really. If you haven't seen the movie and you watch the movie, you'll understand why "Cry Little Sister" just really epitomizes the movie overall. It's it's just a very cool sound, especially when you don't see the vampires, but you're seeing everything from their point of view as they're coming into the boardwalk, and that "Cry Little Sister's" playing. It's just cool. So
yeah. Okay.
Lost Boys, number 5.
Great pick. Great pick. All right, JD, number 4.
So I feel like my list is probably going to be mostly a Kyle list, predictable. Top draft picks, as Chris, you kind of said, going for the best of the best. But my number 4 pick, I feel like it's a little bit out of left field, and I'm assuming it's not going to be on either of your lists. It's 1986. It's a horror movie franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives.
Wow. That's a deep cut there.
Okay. I got to hear this. I got to hear it.
Who's in this?
So the soundtrack is mostly comprised of Alice Cooper.
Okay.
But he's back, the man behind the mask, off of the Constrictor album. Ridiculously good. We got Teenage Frankenstein on there, Hard Rock Summer. It's to quote Chris, it's the epitome of 1986, where you just have Jason just slaughtering people and Alice Cooper he's back, the man behind the mask, and he's coming for you. That music video, I got it on vinyl. I do.
You've never sang on here, and I wish you hadn't.
JD is singing the theme song from Friday the 13th, Part 6, and apparently said his pants were down. So we know that. I'm just so glad, those of you who don't know, JD and I met live in person, and I'm really glad he wasn't drinking 4 roses because.
That was bullet night, and Socrates was passing 4 fingers along.
So I don't really know that soundtrack very well. It's all Alice Cooper for the most part.
Yeah, no, it's just. We rewatched all the Friday the 13th movies in college, and when that song hit the credits of this movie playing, I was just like, holy shit, I understand 1986 now.
Okay.
So give it a listen. He's
Okay.
back, and the music video is so good.
Okay.
Yeah. Teenage Frankenstein, Hard Rock Summer. Got a little felony on here. Yeah. Yes, this might be worth listening to. Okay.
There we go. Like I
Okay.
said, deep cut out of left field, but there it is.
Deep
So
cut.
Kyle, go talk about Stand By Me.
Deep
Okay.
deep cut, no
And
pun intended.
I'm in the year 1986. It's a Rob Reiner movie. No, I'm kidding. It's not Stand By Me.
You're not kidding. It will be on your list.
We actually did that the other day. He was like, go ahead and make your pick. And I know it's Angels in the Outfield. And I was like, it's 100% Angels in the Outfield. You're right. It was the top 5 Christopher Lloyd movies. Yeah, I don't know. I have an affinity for the movie Angels in the Outfield. I thought he was great as Al. I don't know. Okay, so I am in the year 1988. I did put a Tom Cruise movie on here, but it's not Top Gun. And this one's a lot of fun because he's he's slinging some drinks, and it's the movie Cocktail. And we have some pretty iconic music in here. We've got a little bit of Kokomo on here from the Beach Boys. We've got some Don't Worry, Be Happy. We've got some All Shook Up. It's a fantastic soundtrack. So, but yeah, I mean, anytime you get the Beach Boys on there, that's one of my favorites. JD can attest. If we're out on the boat, I will definitely rock some Beach Boys.
Yeah, and some short shorts.
And sing the high parts.
Yeah. That is the soundtrack for every all-inclusive resort in the Caribbean.
Right. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually had Cocktails in my third book. It's one of the chapters of my third book. I love the movie. I think it's super underrated. I mean, Tom Cruise aside, Elizabeth Shue, who were huge stars at the time, both of them. But it is a very underrated movie. And again, soundtrack, best player available. You got, I think 2 for sure top 5 hits, maybe 2 number 1s, Kokomo and Don't Worry, Be Happy.
Yeah. Yeah. Way down in Kokomo.
Oh no.
Yeah. I'm going with the low part there. The high part, it's good.
Aruba, Jamaica. Who John Stamos was in the Kokomo video.
Oh yeah. No, I saw him in there for sure.
Yeah.
I was watching the video earlier. I was like, is that Stamos?
Yeah.
Then they cut away real quick. I was like, oh, all right.
There you go.
Interesting. So Chris, what's your number 4?
Okay. So my number 4, we're going to go to 1989. And we are going to go the route of Cameron Crowe.
Oh boy.
Who just, when we mention directors and writers, the fact that we don't mention Cameron Crowe is pretty shocking to me because he had a great run. If you think about Fast Times at Ridgemont High and Jerry Maguire and Almost Famous, and I'm sure I'm missing a few there. And this one, which had the main character Lloyd Dobler and Say Anything. Mm-hmm. This soundtrack, this is what an 80s soundtrack was all about. Because obviously everybody knows In Your Eyes, Peter Gabriel, and there's a great story behind how that actually came to be. And Peter Gabriel was pushing back. He did not want. He was not interested. Cameron Crowe actually flew to him. There was some help that he got from somebody who was close to Peter Gabriel at the time, but ultimately, he said that scene doesn't work without In Your Eyes, and there's no other song that fits that scene. But if we put that aside and you go and you look at this soundtrack, you've got Nancy Wilson from Heart had a song All for Love. Then you've got Cult of Personality, Living Color. Joe Satriani has a song on there, great guitarist, right? One Big Rush. Cheap Trick, You Want It. Taste the Pain by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. In Your Eyes, we mentioned Stripped, which is one of the great Depeche Mode songs. If you don't know the song by Depeche Mode, Stripped is an incredible Depeche Mode song that does not get mentioned with some of the great Depeche Mode songs. Any soundtrack with Fishbone is great. Skanking to the Beat. You got the Replacements, Within Your Reach. Steely Dan, Ricky Don't Lose That Number. Mother Love Bone, if you remember them from the kind of early 90s grunge scene. Chloe Dancer, Crown of Thorns. You've got Aerosmith, Back in the Saddle. Toy Box by Soundgarden. Flower by Soundgarden. amazing soundtrack, really awesome soundtrack. And Your Eyes isn't even the best song on there, to be honest. It's probably like number 4.
No, that's a great pick. I love that pick. It's not on my list, and it was very difficult to not include. But
yeah, I'll table my favorite song, and we'll circle back to that.
Well, there is also the rap about Lloyd on Null and Void, got dissed in the Malibu, don't know what to do. At the Gas and Sip. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I feel like that was also a best available draft pick right there. That was
for sure. I mean, yeah, it is for sure. But I think because of the diversity on the soundtrack in terms of the sounds,
for sure.
I mean, you really have a lot of diversity when you have Fishbone and Depeche Mode and Peter Gabriel and Cheap Trick and Steely Dan.
Heck yeah.
So
I saw Cheap Trick at the United Center with Aerosmith. They were awesome. That was like a decade ago. So cool. JD, number 3, what do you got?
My number 3 has been discussed already.
Lost Boys. Go ahead and shout it out.
No, it's not Lost Boys.
Okay.
It is Karate Kid.
No.
Nice.
And I think when you're discussing soundtracks from this time period, there's a number of factors that really rule into how you react to the movie and to the music, and nostalgia is very important. And it's in our archives, the first Karate Kid movie, and I remember where I was, how I reacted to the music, and just like how I listened to that soundtrack, and I watched that movie, and I watched Cobra Kai, and it just puts me into childhood in a very positive way. And for that reason, this is my number 3 pick.
All right.
Yeah. Obviously, I can't disagree. It was on my list. Great pick. And I love everything that you said there.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I hate you, but thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I wish you'd shave and get a haircut, but can't win them all.
Get a haircut and get a real job.
Oh, God, don't do that. Don't shake your head. Okay. I'm going to switch over to my number 3 since we've already talked quite a bit about Karate Kid. My number 3 pick is in the year 1989. We just talked about this a little bit ago with Chris's pick, but yeah, this young man was making his directorial debut. He should have known a thing or two about music because he was fresh off of the Rolling Stone, being a journalist, and that was Cameron Crowe. And I've got Say Anything at number 3 on my list here. So yeah, I absolutely love this soundtrack. I would love to get this on vinyl at some point. And my favorite song is not In Your Eyes, even though I do love that song. It's definitely Cult of Personality, Living Color.
Yeah.
So, and that's not just because I love CM Punk, the wrestler, who comes out to that every single night. But yes,
yes, it is. You're a fangirl.
But I also, I love Aerosmith, as I talked about. I saw them with Cheap Trick. So, Back in the Saddle, You Want It. I love some Chili Peppers. I mean, this album is just loaded with some major artists.
Yeah.
So this very easily could have been my number 1 pick, but there's some really great soundtracks in the 80s. So
same for me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we covered enough of Say Anything. So Chris, over to you at number 3.
My number 3, also just shameless plug here, a chapter in the new book that's coming out. And this is actually one of my favorite movies from the 80s as well. I would say probably a top 5 for me movie. And it's a sports movie. I never had kids, but if I did, I would have named my kid after the main character in this movie because I think it's one of the coolest names in movies. And that is Vision Quest. And that character is Loudon Swain.
There we go.
Does anybody have Vision Quest?
Nope.
No, but I thought you were going to drop some Cold Trickle on us.
Can I be honest? I thought you were going to say Lucas for a second.
Hey, Lucas is a great movie, but I don't even remember like the soundtrack
because of the name. I thought you were going to. I thought you're a football 80s movie name, and I was like, he's going to say Lucas, Corey Haim. Holy
Loudon Swain wrestling. Yeah,
there we go.
Yeah,
that's a cool name.
Loudon's a great name. So yes, Vision Quest, incredible I mean, just listen, a great movie. If you haven't seen it and you like sports movies, it's a really, really great one. And if there's any girls that are listening and you wanted to get one more glimpse of Jake Ryan from 16 Candles, he is also in Vision Quest. He plays Matthew Modine's best friend in the movie as well. So great movie. The soundtrack, let me just kind of go down the list here. This is what I was talking about when I said earlier that the biggest bands and the biggest musicians wanted to be on soundtracks.
Right.
This is 1985. Only the Young by Journey. Hungry for Heaven, Ronnie James Dio. I'll Fall in Love Again, Sammy Hagar. Hot Blooded, Foreigner. Harden My Heart, Quarter Flash. Time for Me to Fly, REO Speedwagon. Gambler, Madonna. Crazy for You, Madonna. Lunatic Fringe, Red Rider. Change by John Waite. No More Words, a nod to Berlin from also in Top Gun. Shout to the Top, the Style Council, and She's on the Zoom, Don Henley. I mean, there's some Hall of Famers there. And Madonna, by the way, has a little bit part where she plays a bar singer in a dive bar when they're dancing and she's singing Crazy for You. So wow, that's a hell of a soundtrack.
Yeah. It's deep.
And if you want to get fired up for working out, there's some really great songs on there too.
Well, you've talked about Vision Quest in the past on the podcast with us.
Yes.
So you're very passionate about this.
I'm a fan.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. I'm a fan of Vision Quest for sure.
Let's just say if there was a panel, he could host it.
Yeah, I could. I actually could. I really think it's an iconic 80s movie. I think it has everything that you want in an 80s movie. In terms of like the plot and the characters and I don't know, the kind of the sports hero. And then of course, one of the greatest monologues of all time in movie history is when he is really kind of scared to go to wrestle that night, or he's not sure if he wants to wrestle that night. He kind of is like pulling out, and he goes to visit his friend who's the short order cook at the restaurant, at the hotel that he works at, Elmo. And he doesn't think Elmo is going to be there because he should be working, but he is. And Elmo explains to him why he's going to come watch him wrestle. And it's an incredible monologue. He talks about how it ain't the 6 minutes. It's what happens in those 6 minutes. It's a great lesson about life. So yeah, good one.
Fantastic. All right, JD, we are down to the final two picks. Start us off right. What do you have at number 2?
Just going to come out the gate. It's already been talked about. It is The Lost Boys.
Well done.
I love this. And again, this is a nostalgic play for me because this soundtrack in the movie introduced me to The Doors through Echo and the Bunnymen.
Yep.
And I love Echo and the Bunnymen. And when Donnie Darko came out, like I was just like in awe of that soundtrack. Not an 80s movie, but what Echo and the Bunnymen did for both of these movies is just, I don't know. It's like, it's hard to put into words, like just the feelings that this, it was just like, hell yeah.
What was that?
Hell yeah.
like a cougar. Okay. Yeah, I mean, again, I can't say too much about The Lost Boys. Chris has already talked about it, and yeah, man, that's a solid pick at number 2. So cool. I'm gonna throw it over to me. This might give away my number 1 pick. My number 2 is not Lost Boys. My number 2 is a movie from 1987. There had to be some John Hughes on my list, although this may not be the one that you guys expect out of me. This one was written by John Hughes, but it's not directed by John Hughes. And it is, I would say, a very underrated 80s movie. I don't know that it gets as much love. It's got a couple Back to the Future alums in it. It's got Leah Thompson. It's got Eric Stoltz, who, of course, spent 6 weeks on the set and got fired, but apparently doesn't remember a second of it. And I'm talking about Some Kind of Wonderful. Now, this soundtrack doesn't have a lot of the big names on it, but I freaking love this soundtrack. It's got a couple songs on here. If you want to look them up on YouTube, definitely would recommend it. Do Anything, Abuse, Turn to the Sky, Brilliant Mind. There is Miss Amanda Jones, which is a Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, little Stones for you. We've got some I Can't Help Falling in Love, of course, written by the late great Elvis Presley, but this one is performed by somebody else. It's a cover. And then Turn to the Sky, and then we've got some Pretty in Pink in here as well. So I love this soundtrack. I think it's super underrated, like the movie, and that is my number 2 pick.
It's a good pick. I thought you might say Planes, Trains, Automobiles, which surprisingly has some good songs.
Yeah.
And was 1987 as well.
Mm-hmm.
Look at you,
I fail
Kyle.
again with Planes and Trains, but yeah, I had to put some Hughes on here, and John Hughes knew his music. I for all the things they've re-released as far as his movies go, I'm shocked that they've not put out a John Hughes music collection, because I feel like that would have done very, very well.
Totally.
And still will if they would do it on vinyl.
He was if you go back and look at the movies, the Smiths and Thompson twins, and Psychedelic Furs. But Thompson twins were a big part of most of his movies, actually.
Yep.
You know, he used If You Were Here in several movies.
Right. Yeah, he was really into like British rock and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's before his time, I would say.
Yeah, good choice.
So, there we go.
There you go.
All right, Chris, over to you. Number 2.
My number 2, or JD's number 2. My number 2? My number
Your
2.
number 2. Yep.
You're number 2.
You're number 2. Who is number 2? So my number 2. Okay, I'm going to go back to the Cameron Crowe well. And this is 1982. I actually bought, I was 12, I think, or 13, 12. I was 12. I actually bought a ticket to E.T. and snuck into this movie because I wanted to see Phoebe Cates. And that's Fast Times at Ridgemount High. This soundtrack, in so many ways, I think really represents what the 80s was about. Because when you think about the songs on the soundtrack, a lot of them you can line up with a scene, a particular scene. It really does. You really do get that feeling when you hear a song like Moving in Stereo by the Cars. I mean, it just brings back that Phoebe Cates pool scene. And no matter what, it'll never, you hear that song and you think of Fast Times at Ridgemount High. Again, going back to like the types of bands and musicians that wanted to be on these soundtracks. So just on this soundtrack alone, you had, the Ravens, Raised on the Radio is like such a great song, and it's a great little scene with Bradley Hamilton. But Somebody's Baby, Jackson Brown, you have a Don Henley song, a Joe Walsh song. But then you really get into like Oingo Boingo. Billy Squire did the Fast Times theme song. I didn't know that, actually. Stevie Nicks has a song, The Go-Go's, Graham Nash, Quarter Flash, Jimmy Buffett. Spicoli's theme was.
I was going to say, let's not forget about the man. It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah.
Wasting away.
Sammy Hagar, Poco, The Cars, I mentioned, Moving in Stereo. The Go-Go's, We Got the Beat. American Girl, Tom Petty. Wooly Bully. Kashmir by Zeppelin. It's just it's an incredible soundtrack. Yeah.
Here's what I've learned, Chris. You're right and we're wrong.
Yes.
This isn't on my list, and we're wrong for not having it on our list.
Oh.
You win. If there's a champion, and we haven't even gotten to number 1.
Well, my number 1 is going to, I think, blow your socks off. But
and I'm not even wearing socks.
Right.
Well, you're not wearing pants either, apparently.
Right.
Well,
unfortunately for all of us.
Say the magic word, and I'm not wearing a shirt either.
Don't tell me the magic word, Kyle.
The magic word
Great
is
white buffalo. Okay. Oh.
What was the magic word in Euro Trip?
Oh my God. Flugenheimen.
Bring on the Flugenheimen.
This.
Talk about a movie that could have been an 80s movie. That's one. Euro Trip.
Love it.
So Fast Times, I love it. Cameron Crowe, once again. Amy Heckerling, once again. Yeah.
Cameron Crowe, I just put all of his movies. Almost Famous. Are you kidding me? If we were doing best soundtracks of the 90s, that's probably my number one pick.
Even Jerry Maguire had a good soundtrack.
So. Oh my God. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
That's a great movie.
Yep.
Holy crap. Okay. Let's get to the breakdown, JD, and let's get to your number one pick. So you started with some Top Gun. We went to a strange one. We'll just call it with Friday the 13th, part 6. Karate Kid, number 3. The Lost Boys at number 2. Number 1, what do you have for your favorite 80s movie soundtrack?
I'm surprised that this hasn't come up yet.
Ooh.
And I don't know if that means it's your number 1, Kyle. I kind of have a feeling your number 1 is going to be The Lost Boys. Chris, I have no idea where you're going, but I can't wait to find out.
Right.
But my number 1 is Back to the Future.
Okay.
Wow.
There's something about Huey Lewis in the news that just, again, transforms me into a place where I just am super just excited. I love his music. I'm not Patrick Bateman. I'm not murdering people to it. But at the same time, I've seen Huey live maybe 3 times. And it's phenomenal. Like, he's just such a powerful musician. And like, even to his like cameo in that movie, like rewatching it now and just everything about that, it has to be my number 1. It has to be. And it is.
It's amazing when they get to that scene and Marty and his band are rocking out and he kind of looks to his right, looks to his left, and then picks up the speaker. And he's like, I'm afraid you're just too darn loud. And it's just like, really? From Huey Lewis?
Huey Lewis. Just, if you guys, Chris, I would put a bet that you've seen him live.
I have not seen Huey Lewis live. And I have vinyl. I have Huey Lewis vinyl. I have like 3 of his albums on vinyl.
Same.
I want the 3 of us to go see Huey Lewis together. That's what I want.
He puts on a hell of a show.
And he's got, I think he has like, I'm not sure he's doing it anymore because he has a hearing issue from performing.
Ah, son of a.
Yeah.
Well, so I've got that memory and you both don't.
Yeah.
That sucks. You know, the only reason this isn't on my list, there are great soundtrack songs on here. I think of Back to the Future as more of a great score. I love the score for this movie and Alan Silvestri. And that's who I think of first when I think of Back to the Future, a lot like E.T. and Jaws and John Williams and those guys. So I guess I didn't consider it for soundtrack. So it never crossed my mind.
I think of The Power of Love. So
it's a great song.
When I think of Back to the Future, that's what I think of. I mean, I think of Huey Lewis. I'm with you, JD. Like when I think of Back to the Future, I think of Huey Lewis.
And The Power of Love was my ringtone on my phone for many a year.
Of course it was.
Yeah,
JD. Covered at one time by early November. Anyway,
get out of here.
My favorite.
Wake me up when September ends.
All right, let's get to the breakdown here for me. So I started with The Karate Kid at number 5, Cocktail at number 4, some Cameron Crowe with Say Anything at 3, Some Kind of Wonderful came in at number 2, and I'll just say my number 1 here, JD, it was a present from you. I gotta just
throw
it out there.
I remember that cover.
Little vinyl. Here's the backstory, Chris. JD bought this for me a while ago. We moved. I put it in a box. It went into an attic. And then he asked me about it years later. And I claimed he never gave me the album.
Really?
About a month ago, we were unpacking stuff from the attic and pulled out a box. And out comes my Lost Boys album. And I had to take a picture of it and send it to him and go, I'm sorry. You were right. And then I had to admit that I don't have a record player, so I got to go get one now.
Yeah, you do. But that's a great vinyl. Oh
my gosh! But yeah, if you look at just the front cover of this, like you guys already mentioned, I mean, you've got In Excess and Jimmy Barnes, you've got Roger Daltrey, Echo and the Bunnymen, Gerard McMahon, Tim Capella, who's sweaty sax guy. I mean,
yeah, we had to get the sweaty sax guy. I was hoping somebody would.
But "Cry Little Sister" is definitely the song.
Yeah.
And that's why this is on my list. I love this movie. But even, Lost in the Shadows is a great
Yes.
80s song for me.
Yep.
Lost
They're
in the
on motorcycles.
shadows.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that could have easily been like the theme for like Karate Kid. Like when they're
Mm.
chasing,
Yeah.
chasing him down on the beach, that could have been Lost in the Shadows. That could have been in Rocky, when he's training. Like, I mean, there's so many places you could have put that song. But yeah, I love this album. JD, again, thank you. I'm sorry. And you were right. Okay.
I'm
And
going
that's
to
the
buy
last
you a
time.
record player.
And that's the last time. No, you won't. That's too much.
Please.
Come on. Those are expensive, aren't they?
I didn't say I was going to buy you an expensive one. I'm going to get you a cheap one.
Okay. Well, that I'll accept. Okay. Well, let's get to Chris's rundown in his number one pick, which I'm excited for. I have no idea. I would have guessed Breakfast Club, but I don't think it is because he says he's going to blow our socks off. So maybe 5 o'clock. No, I'm not even going to guess. All right. Number 5 was The Lost Boys. Number 4, Say Anything. Number 3 was Vision Quest. Number 2 was Fast Times at Ridgemont High. What is your number 1 80s movie soundtrack, Chris?
My number 1 is one of the darker movies from the 80s. And I think JD mentioned American Psycho earlier. We're talking about the same author from American Psycho. It starred Robert Downey Jr., Jamie Gertz, of course, amazing, and James Spader. And it is Less Than Zero.
Wow.
Less Than Zero, man, what a disturbing, dark, awesome movie, though. And just an amazing young cast, right? I mean, Robert Downey Jr., Jamie Gertz, and James Spader. That was it. Those 3 right there. This soundtrack, though, are you ready for this? So you've got A Hazy Shade of Winter by the Bangles. You got Rock and Roll, which actually was a cover of Paul Simon's, but you got Rock and Roll All Night cover. So that was Kiss, but it was covered by Poison for
that's cool.
Less Than Zero. You've got Aerosmith, Slayer doing a version of Enagata Davida.
Good God.
She's Lost You, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. This is the one that really gets me for the soundtrack. Bring the Noise, Public Enemy is in this soundtrack. Going back to Cali, LL Cool J on this soundtrack. One of my favorites from the 80s, rap-wise, because he has one of my favorite songs, The Rain. Orange Juice Jones has How to Love Again on here. Glenn Danzig and the Power and Fury Orchestra has a song called You and Me. Roy Orbison, Life Fades Away. Let's see, Christmas in Hollis, Run DMC. Bump and Grind, David Lee Roth. The Red Hot Chili Peppers has a song called Fight Like a Brave. Lil Devil, The Cult. Moonlight Drive, The Doors, and Fire, Jimi Hendrix.
And you win. You win.
Let me just say this. We're not, let's step out of the 80s for a moment, but we're not worthy.
I mean, that might be the number 1 soundtrack of all
You're
time.
worthy. You're worthy. Stand up, guys. Yeah, little Steven Tyler. Yeah, that soundtrack is freaking ridiculous. Yeah. I'm reading it as you're going down it on IMDb, just going like this. How did they get all these bands? How did they
introduce the masses to Public Enemy? I mean, people really didn't know Public Enemy unless you were following rap. A lot of people didn't know Public Enemy at the time. That put them, squarely on the map on a national level.
I may be off on the timing, but is this where Aerosmith and Run DMC meet?
80.
Or had they already done that song before that?
I think they had already collaborated. Yeah.
So then they do this right afterwards, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sick soundtrack. And that, again, another example of everyone wanted to be on soundtracks.
Yeah. Yeah, now you can't even get them to put out records.
No. Yeah, I mean, they're certainly not going to share the limelight with somebody else on a soundtrack. God forbid. So. Man. Okay. Well, that list was crazy. There's got to be some honorable mentions on here because I mean, you've got one of your favorite movies on you're wearing it and it wasn't on your list. Yeah. What were your honorable mentions? So my honorable mentions, I mean, let's just say that Purple Rain, none of us said Purple Rain, but Purple Rain, the soundtrack, let's just give a nod to Prince because the guy was one of the greatest musicians of all time. Yeah. And that entire album was amazing. So let's just say that Purple Rain is an honorable mention.
Yeah, maybe a top 10 ladies man all time as well.
I'd
Shout out.
say top 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. Top
Him
5.
and Wilt Chamberlain and like Ric Flair.
Yeah.
In the top 5 somewhere.
He's a top 5 ladies man. So then the other honorable mentions I had, another great one. This is a great story too. Highlander. So Highlander, the story goes that when they had the raw cut of the movie, they wanted Freddie Mercury to do a song for it, so they sent it to him.
Yeah.
He loved the movie so much that he said, we're going to do the entire soundtrack. So Queen, A Kind of Magic is actually the soundtrack to Highlander. And every song on the soundtrack was written by either Freddie Mercury or Brian. Is it Brian Mays?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's Brian Mays.
So all the guys in
He's
Queen
the curly head guy.
Wrote songs for the soundtrack. Yeah. The entire soundtrack is all Queen and Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
That'll never happen.
That's insane.
Again.
No.
Never happen again. The other honorable mentions I had, The Last American Virgin has a great soundtrack, but not quite. I kind of put it in the Fast Times category, but kind of like B. A is Fast Times, B is Last American Virgin. Then I want to throw out a couple that I think are really interesting because I was really into punk rock. So Repo Man and Suburbia. Suburbia was another like punk rock movie from 1983 that Flea was actually in.
Yeah, nice.
But Repo Man had like Suicidal Tendencies, Black Flag, The Plugs. Let's see who else. Circle Jerks. And then of course, the Andrews Sisters and Louis Armstrong as well. But and Suburbia had a similar theme with some punk rock songs as well. Couple of other ones. Colors had a great soundtrack. I would say that would be an honorable mention. And then one other one that I think would be on my list would be Valley Girl. Valley Girl had the Plimsolls. It had, let's see, Eddie Grant, Electric Avenue, Love My Way, The Psychedelic Furs, Who Can It Be Now, Men at Work, The Flirts, Modern English, I Melt With You. So I think those are my honorable mentions.
Okay. Well, that was all of them. That was all the honorable mentions.
Oh, did you guys have some? I'm sorry. Did I like?
No. I'm saying that's awesome. Your list is great. Me and JD are gonna have like 2.
Okay, go ahead. I want to hear them.
So, yeah, mine's gonna be super predictable. Top Gun was just on the outside. And then one thing I love this soundtrack, but I think of it more as a score. Like I watched the movie kind of like Back to the Future and I go, I love the score for this movie, but the soundtrack's cool too. And that's the Goonies because it did have Cyndi Lauper and there's some good songs on there. But again, I like the score because it really sets the tempo of that movie. Yeah. So yeah, those were my 2 that I had on my, just the outside, but man, your list was freaking awesome. And I didn't know about the punk rock thing, dude. Because I made that graphic for you and it's all like punk rock bands.
Yeah, I noticed that. I noticed that. So you should go back and watch the movie Suburbia from 1983. Yeah. Flea starred in it as well. And there's like TSOL is in there, which is on that graphic that you had. Yeah.
That's cool. JD, what do you got?
Captain Geach and the Shrimp Shack Shooters. No. But seriously, I don't know. Stand By Me has a great soundtrack. I'm so surprised that it was not on your list, Kyle. Like that just baffles me.
Yeah, there's a lot of great songs on the Stand By Me. I guess it's a ton of like 50s music. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of like swing music and stuff, which I love.
Yeah. So
I guess if it would have been more like 80s music, it probably would have came to mind, but it wasn't on the top of my list because it's mostly 50 songs.
So what you're saying is you don't enjoy the Remember the Titans soundtrack?
God, that's one of the great soundtracks of all time. How dare you? I had that CD.
So did I.
Yeah. That in every volume of like, what was that one CD used to come out every year and they sold it at Walgreens.
Oh yeah.
Now that's what I call music.
Yeah. No, that's what I call music. Yeah.
Yeah. Can't Hardly Wait had a good soundtrack too from the 90s.
Oh my gosh. We talked about the soundtrack a lot when we covered the movie. That's one of my favorite episodes that we've done. So, which by the way, shameless plug, our archives are wide open. We finally ponied up some money and 300 hours of content you can now stream on our channel. So any episodes with Chris, they're now available. So you can go back and check them all out. So cool. JD, any other ones?
Nothing that hasn't already been said. I mean,
okay.
Chris, you had an excellent rundown. Kyle, you don't know what a rundown is.
No.
But
what
is that? Rundown? What's a rundown?
It's like a pickle. You ever see The Sandlot?
Also, a great episode from The Office where Jim can't figure out what a rundown is.
I'm faxing my dad 12 copies of my customer list.
I appreciate it, and I think maybe at some point we should do the top 5 90s movie soundtracks so that we give you guys a chance, and you can test my knowledge to see if I can stick with you and hang with you guys.
Oh, if you want to see my most pretentious, then yes.
Yeah, JD, it's all going to be Will Smith. I can tell you right now.
Oh God,
he loves Will Smith for sure. What's the one where he goes west? What's the name of that movie?
Parents Just Don't Understand.
Wild Wild West.
Oh,
Wild Wild West, Jim West, Desperado. You don't want
Rough Riders. No, you don't want none.
Yeah, he knows the entire song. It's weird.
I've rapped it at karaoke before.
Okay. Very nice. Well, Chris, as always, man, we appreciate you coming on the show. This is always a blast having you, man. So once again, let's promote where everybody can follow you. If they're kind of catching on late or skip through the previews to get to the good stuff, you can follow Chris on Twitter at 80s Pop Culture, on Instagram at Chris Clews 80s. You can find him on the web at chrisclews.com. That's where you can find about speaking engagements. If you're a business owner or you work in corporate America, definitely recommend Chris coming out to talk to you guys about how 80s pop culture can benefit your workplace. And then, of course, you can check out the books. Chris, tell everybody about the books.
Yep. So the book series is what 80s pop culture teaches us about today's workplace. There's 2 of those now. There'll be a 3rd coming in early September. And that one's actually going to be more about life lessons from 80s pop culture than the workplace. So excited for that one.
Hell yeah, man. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. You're the best, man.
Thanks again for the megaphone, guys. I appreciate it. Always.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah, you're one of our favorites. We're happy to give you the platform anytime. So as soon as the book's done and you're ready to promote it, we're bringing you right back on.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that.
So cool. Well, thank you guys for listening. As always, you can rate, review, and subscribe to us on any major platform: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can find us. If you're listening right here on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. But for JD and myself, this is another episode of the Back in Time podcast. Thanks for listening. See ya.
Stay rad, everybody.